Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking about supplements today, nutrition, what you take in, and why it makes a difference in your body. We have a couple of experts. I'm really, really appreciative of joining us today. We're going to have Dr. Eric Llewellyn and Jason Derkevics join us. Dr. Llewellyn takes a holistic view of nature, health, and life in general. The vegetarian diet, he says, leads to not only physical fitness, but also spiritual well-being of humanity. I'd love to talk about that also. He believes in self-healing through holistic nutrition. After graduating from the British College of Neuropathy and Osteopathy in London, he received training in nutrition and holistic health with Dr. Philip Kilsby, pioneer in holistic medicine. He studied the crucial role of soil vitality in health and nutrition. In the 1980s, Dr. Llewellyn founded Nature's Own, a company that made pioneering contributions through renatured nutrients. In 1998, he joined the Scientific and Medical Network of the United Kingdom. And then Jason Derkevics joins us, and he learned after college what nutrition was all about when he worked with another company, and he realized that all supplements were not the same. He became involved, and his passion today is knowing what works. And that's Grown by Nature, grownbynature.com. And I'm really thrilled to have both of you join us. Thank you, Dr. Llewellyn, and thank you, Jason, for joining us today on the Power Hour.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Good morning to all of you, and thank you for this incredible product that we know is different from anything else that is out there. And Jason, let me just start with you real quickly and ask you, what was it that told you initially there's something different in Grown by Nature?
Well, thank you very much again for having us, Joyce.
Sure.
When I first began taking supplements in college, I actually developed a bladder infection. I'm not sure if it was 100% entirely due to the fact that I was taking the rubbish supplements, but I learned later
Rubbish
on
supplements? Did you call it rubbish supplements?
Yes, that's correct.
I like that. Okay, go ahead.
But I learned that very well could have been the case after just a half-hour meeting with Dr. Llewellyn. I was taking 2 of the one-a-day supplements as I was a college athlete. I felt I needed to take more supplements than the next guy to get that competitive edge. But then actually when I sat down with Eric and we went over various ingredients and what was being used in the actual supplements I was taking, I went home immediately and actually dumped the stuff and never took it again, because what I found was that everything I was taking, under the guise of taking something healthy for myself, I learned that I was taking nothing but pure chemicals, which then I further learned each one of those chemicals had contraindications and something that was going to bring about an adverse reaction to my body, as opposed to working with a natural product that, our Creator had designed for us to use for health-building properties.
And Dr. Llewellyn, who, boy, I tell you, I think if I could have any degree or be educated in any manner, it would be to be an osteopathic physician and a naturopathic doctor. I mean, you really have got the best of the ingredients to help you, and that obviously is probably what steered you in the direction of trying to be the healthiest that you can be. Am I correct, Dr. Llewellyn?
Well, I try and keep healthy, yes, and but I would always go back to the condition of the soil is where it all starts, if you see what I mean, Joyce. I try and work from where's it all coming from, leaving the spiritual side to one side at the moment. Then physically and metabolically it starts in the soil. And it's the quality of the soil that gives us the quality of the food, and that's how we make decisions. If I may just say one thing to you, I heard the end of you talking about coconut oil. It's a fascinating product, very misunderstood. One of the things it's particularly used for, and I've seen it in Europe, is they use it actually to deactivate HIV virus.
Whoa!
I don't know if you knew that or not, but not a lot of people do. But that's got a lot of scientific references, so I just wanted to add to your little bit. You probably knew all that anyway.
No, please. I want to know about that. To deactivate?
It deactivates many viruses, in fact, but they found that HIV is one of the ones that it does deactivate. Now, why that works with some people and not with others, we don't know. But it is beyond chance, and the scientific literature shows it to be statistically significant with a lot of patients. So I just thought I'd like to add that because it's very good for the immune system.
So, I mean, it would benefit us then prophylactically or preventatively to be taking a tablespoon of it, or how much would you say that an adult should take a day?
Well, I have no difficulty with a tablespoon, but it's so important to make sure it's not hydrogenated coconut oil, obviously. But most of the health benefits and the protection for the heart, which sounds counterintuitive when you're talking about a fat, these are medium-chain fatty acids, of course, but it does not contribute to cardiovascular disease, and I've got all the references for that I need anyway. It also, for the ladies, is one of the, probably along with the old-fashioned bay rum, one of the most wonderful things for your hair. But it clears the gut of, mainly due to the acrylic acid in it, clears the gut of a lot of detrimental bacteria. Now, I know I'm not supposed to be talking about this, but it's wonderful stuff. It really is. And it increases good cholesterol, gets rid of bad cholesterol, it lowers the very, very bad cholesterol, and even lowers triglycerides, the serum triglycerides. So that's all off my head, but I'm very keen on it. So if you've got a good one, I absolutely think you should be promoting it as a proper health supplement, and there's nothing wrong with taking that each day.
Well, I thank you very much for that. And, yes, we do have the best. I've tried them all, and we do have the best. And you're so right about hydrogenated or the dregs of the caskets sometimes. I mean, I really worry about people getting the bad stuff. No, on this program...
a lot of it's solvent extracted, and, you know, it's a bit like olive oil. You either get extra virgin olive oil or you get the 15th pressing. Anyway.
Yeah.
There we are.
On this program, I just want to make it clear, I want you to talk about whatever works. I don't care what it is. And whatever you feel we need to know about, we want to hear about. There's nothing that is off base. And definitely, I mean, though we want to talk about why Grown by Nature works, we want to talk about what works for our bodies. And one other thing I want to address before we get into vitamin supplements is the importance of the spiritual aspect of life and the importance of food as it relates to the spiritual aspect of life. Would you mind addressing that?
Well, I would only give you my opinion and observation, but it is my opinion that if you have a diet that is essentially incorporating a lot of raw foods, appropriate raw foods, and appropriate to the season as well. You wouldn't eat raw potato, for example. And the advice would be not to have too much lettuce in winter because that's cooling your system, which is designed for summer. But a lot of raw foods, appropriate raw foods, I would say should be at least 20% of the diet. Importantly, of course, it's also to get good quality water, and I've written quite a bit about living water and being sort of rather shouted down because of it, but there are some excellent physics that show you the dynamic of proper good healthy water is just fundamental, and people think they should drink water, but they don't know why. And there is a dynamic with the water that you're trying to get as well. There's a very famous French doctor, head of medical research, who wrote about proving homeopathy, and they actually used water as an example. And of course, he was a complete charlatan, and he was thrown out of his office. But 10 years later, after nobody would employ him, he was employed by the Japanese at a very big budget and has come through his hard bit, and he's a wonderful man. And I would encourage everybody to try and get hold of anything to do with living water.
Excellent, excellent. So, but the spiritual aspect, a lot of people say it is related to food.
Well, I think the colour of food also relates to the spiritual side of it. It's no coincidence, in my view, that generally, apart from recently, people respect Buddhism and things like that, which are always a vegetarian and raw diet mainly. There's no question, once you have more raw, appropriate foods, then you become more in touch with yourself, if I can put it that way. I've seen this so many times in my life, especially with cancer sufferers. Once you get them off the meats and the animal fats, they are much more happy within themselves themselves, and they will always sort of say, I just wish I'd lived like this. I feel, and many of them do say it was, a turning point in their life, getting their cancer, and because it brings you more in harmony with yourself if you have these living foods, if I put it that way, and it gives you much more energy as well. I'm not sure I'm answering your question fully, but I could go on for hours about it.
Oh, I know, and I agree. I feel very strongly about it also. Someone told me that they could not go past or increase their spiritual level. They had gone as far as they thought they could until they gave up meat, until they gave up alcohol, and then they were able to progress. So that tells me something, there's something there.
Absolutely true, and I've seen it so many times with, as I say, cancer sufferers and other people who are going terminally. They find themselves, and it's in finding themselves that I think is a predominant part of the recovery from cancer.
It's amazing. Well, and there are a lot of people that cannot get their nutrition from good soil, from good food, or even organic food in their area. I know I have to drive an hour and a half to get good organic food. But it's important to me to do that, and I will do it, and I don't eat unless it's organic. However, I do believe that we need to supplement our diet, and there again, Jason, that's where you come in with this type of nutrition that comes from a supplement that we can't get from our food. And I want you to talk about how you became involved with Grown by Nature, and then I want Dr. Llewellyn to explain the good supplements versus the bad rubbish supplements, if you will. We'll be back after this 4-minute break with the Power Hour. Stay tuned. This is Joyce Riley with Dr. Eric Llewellyn from the UK and Jason Derkevics. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you so very much for joining us, caring about your world, doing the next right and honorable thing. We're talking to Dr. Eric Llewellyn and to Jason Derkevics. Jason, the Grown by Nature brand or the Grown by Nature type of vitamins that we carry at the Power Mall, supplements and vitamins, are different from anything else, and that's why we carry them. Explain, if you can, sort of the difference between them, and then I want to find out from Dr. Llewellyn more about good versus bad vitamins and ingredients. And there are no sacred cows here. I mean, I want to know the truth. That's what it's all about for my listeners and me.
Well, the main difference is just simply the fact that over 99% of the brands out there are made by the same pharmaceutical companies. The only difference basically is the marketing between brands. But if you look at the ingredients at the back of the bottle, you'll see listed identical chemicals across the shelves at your local grocery stores, your local vitamin health shops. Doesn't matter where you're buying them, they're the same materials. What Grown by Nature is we actually offer a whole food nutrient, which is not manufactured, but it's actually grown. They're organic, non-genetically modified materials, and they've also been university tested to show that they are superior in absorption, retention, and utilization when compared to the synthetic form. I feel that Grown by Nature is one of maybe a handful of companies that actually offer a true supplement. If you look at what a supplement is designed to do, it's supposed to be providing what is lacking in our diet. And if you're taking a synthetic form, which is an incomplete or an isolated nutrient, it's sort of like giving somebody a glass of salt water if they're thirsty in the desert. It's not going to quench their thirst, and it's not going to hydrate them, but it's only going to push them further out of balance. I don't have a degree in chemistry, and I imagine most people do not. So therefore, when we're taking in these synthetic forms, you have to be careful. Don't take this one within 2 hours of taking this one. Make sure that you eat this one with food to help with the absorption, and it doesn't make your stomach upset. That's what happens when you're dealing with chemicals and their adverse reactions. With Grown by Nature, they're very well tolerated by the body. You don't even have to take them with food because they are food. They have the appropriate carrying food factors, which are found in food. They have proteins, carbohydrates, fatty acids, enzymes, lipids, all the necessary factors that are naturally found in food. And with Grown by Nature versus, the synthetic comparison, there really is no comparison because the synthetic form is only going to push your body further out of balance.
All right, let me ask Dr. Llewellyn, how can such a small little tiny thing be giving us enough food in it to make a difference? I mean, these are little tiny, small pills or not capsules, but pills. How can that possibly make a difference in our body?
Let me come back. First of all, you say they're small. I'm not going to argue with you at all. I think they're high potency compared to the others. The reason is that, so I'm not meaning to be offensive there, Joyce, but if you look at the amount of nutrients in real food, then the Grown by Nature supplements offer a higher potency and a concentrated potency. If you then compare that to the so-called natural vitamins, then you can't, because they might have 500, 600, 700 milligrams or even more, where a Grown by Nature may have 20 or 30. Now, we have to go back to a book which everybody can get in every library in America called the United States Pharmacopoeia and the Merck Index, which clearly tells you that essentially your body can only utilize about between 10 and 15% of that very high potency. So that drops it back dramatically. Now, when they're doing tests to prove the bioavailability or several other monitors that I don't think are overly important, but when they're showing you those, what they're actually showing you is the chemistry of it, not the effectiveness of it. Now, I do fully acknowledge that a lot of the chemical supplements have helped people, but there is usually a price to pay. So if you look at something as simple as calcium, 500 milligrams as a calcium carbonate or something, you'd be very lucky to get about 2 or 3 milligrams to your bone. If you do the Grown by Nature, then you're going to get, I don't know what potency it is, but if it's 30 milligrams, you're probably going to get 25, 28 milligrams to your bones.
Interesting. Now, that was my point. It's not that they're so small that they're ineffective, but they are so small, and yet they are so concentrated, and how they become so concentrated.
They're recognized by the body as nutrients, not chemicals.
Okay, that's important. They're recognized by the body as nutrients, not chemicals. We'll be back. 3-minute break. Stay tuned. Dr. Llewellyn and Jason Derkevics. This is Joyce Riley. 33 minutes after the hour, you're in the right place. Aren't you glad you joined the Power Hour today? You never know what you're going to hear. I am just so thrilled with Dr. Llewellyn and our guest, Jason Derkevics, also. The Grown by Nature, they're renatured organic whole food nutrients. Now, how often can you find that? They are renatured organic whole food nutrients, and there's a whole process behind that, and we have the information at the Power Hour. And if you order the Grown by Nature nutrients, you can actually get a copy of that. It's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, I think, of information on why Grown by Nature. Now, the people that order it know why. I mean, it works for them, and they reorder it. If you order it, there's a special on it now at the Power Mall, but we are one of the few people that carry Grown by Nature, and we are so grateful. We've had it for so long, and we are so thrilled with it. I know I use a magnesium every night, and I use it every night, or if I don't, then I get up and then I have to get up and take it at 2 a.m. because I don't sleep as well without it. So the Grown by Nature magnesium I'm especially fond of, and the multi, of course. But get the information on why it is different at the Power Mall. Also know that we've got organic body care recipes. Make your own body care items at the Power Mall. We have an inventory clearance. Cancer Free, the book by Dr. Garcia, MD, and Bill Henderson, Your Guide to Gentle Non-Toxic Healing. The Miracle 2 special, all available at the Power Mall. Also, remember to get your clay. We have the 5-pound clay tubs for your garden, and get it while it lasts, because we only get this once a year when they have it for the gardens. Get it and put it in your garden. to pull out all that nasty stuff out of your garden into the clay. We are talking to Dr. Eric Llewellyn and to Jason Derkevics, and during the break, I was talking to him about sauerkraut and the importance of sauerkraut. And I asked him if he would come on and just do a show on food and why these itunes are so important, and he agreed to do that. So I really appreciate that, and we'll do that later on. But the renatured ingredients, or the renatured items, the renatured vitamins called Grown by Nature, they are so important that we take them as is, but what is it that we should not be taking? What are the bad elements, Dr. Llewellyn, the bad things that we would not want to find in our vitamins or our mineral combinations?
Gosh, as a host, some of the better quality vitamins are actually still pretty terrible. It is a very straightforward thing here, Joyce. If you read the pharmacopoeias, they're very clear. You do not mix chemical vitamins with chemical minerals. Now, this has been known for 40 years, published by even people like Earl Mindell, who's written quite a big tome in the 70s. There are chemical interactions between the chemicals, and they say, don't take these multivitamin and mineral supplements because you will get adverse reactions. That's what happens. I cannot put it too strongly. It is very straightforward. It is not my opinion. It's in every library in America. If you do that, you're going to cause imbalance in your body. You cause acid gut, acid blood, and it throws the whole thing off. The beauty about Grown by Nature is it's such nonsense. You can't have vitamin E and iron together. No, what they mean is you can't have ferrous sulfate and one of the whatever they call vitamin E nowadays. But you find those two things in food, so do you have to start splitting your cabbage leaf? So you take half a cabbage leaf in the morning and half in the evening? Complete nonsense. The vitamin E and the iron in food is in a food form. It is not in a chemical form. It's designed so that it provides that broad spectrum of synergistic nutrients. When they're in the chemical form, they don't. It's really that simple. Am I answering your question before
Yes, absolutely. But what is it that we don't want to find? And how do we know a chemical name?
You shouldn't have... I can send Jason a list of the so-called these healthy multivitamin and mineral complex that have they are chemicals, and they have scientifically published data saying don't take these at the same time. I'm very happy to send a list to Jason because I think people have the right to know. And as Jason said, please read the back of the ingredient list. You will see they're the same chemicals that you would go into the drugstore as a synthetic, or even your doctor would prescribe for you. It is really that simple. The difference mainly being as simple as vitamin C. The commercial vitamin C is hydrogenated, that lovely word, sugar, processed with acetone and some other bits and pieces. The one Jason has is whole citrus pulp. Now, that is quite a bit of a difference, because most vitamin C, L-ascorbic acid or ascorbic acid, is listed as a preservative in foods in the supermarket. On biscuits and bakery and a whole range of things, it is listed as a preservative. There is no silicon chip in that little molecule of ascorbic acid. How come it is a preservative which stops life, good and bad, in foods, and when you take it, it suddenly becomes a health supplement? There's no silicon chip that says when it's in my body it won't act as a preservative.
Interesting.
Well, and then if you get to so-called natural vitamin E, which is a positive health supplement, well, look at all the fatty products in the supermarket. What is the preservative? Vitamin E. They call it D-alpha-tocopherol or D-tocopherol, but it is acting as a preservative. Now, these food companies know what they're doing. These are preservatives to keep anything detrimental happening to that product. That is true. It also stops anything good happening in your gut. And so I feel very strongly that if you just read the label, ask the question, how is it a preservative and a health supplement? It's a very simple question.
And the other concern, of course, is GMO items in vitamins, which I think...
most people don't look for GMO. That's why they don't find it. I would say probably a minimum of 80% of the supplements would come off the market that are listed as non-GMO. If you don't look for it, you don't find it. And it's extremely simple. The analytical machinery that they use nowadays, you just set the columns and you won't find it. You have to go to PR or specialist machines, which is used to absolutely make sure that the renatured vitamins are completely clear of GMO. Now, we don't like GMO because it alters the energy structure of the nutrient, and these things do have an energy field around them. I think there's a very famous story of Jason getting in trouble with the American secret police because they thought it was a biological bomb or something. But there is an energy field around the renatured supplements that is positive. You do not get that when you buy the chemical ones, even if they're called natural. Most chemical ones will have an origin in GMO, but if you don't look for it, you won't find it.
I always want to remind everybody that is the kind of the challenge that Jason had one day when he called us and said that he had gotten a phone call that the vitamins had been considered a live item coming through the whatever chain of inspection that they were in, and that was the reason was because they are alive. Jason, that that really sold me on the renatured vitamins grown by nature when I heard that story.
Sorry, jump in. You were asking about food. I think there are three classifications of food we need to be aware of. There is living food. We go and pick an apple or a lettuce. A few days later, it's dead. So there's a living force going on. Then you've got dormant foods, which are seeds and carrots that we store for a few months, but they become biologically beneficially active once we take them. And then you have the highly processed foods, which I generally consider dead foods. Now, I put the grown by nature as the dormant food. It comes back to life once it's in your body. I've done this for 30 years, absolutely, totally convinced by it.
Now, what about let's say you take the chemicals, let's say a person has been taking chemical vitamins. What happens to those chemicals in the body? Is there a buildup? Does the body get rid of it?
Yes,
what happens to those chemicals?
There is, and I'm very happy to send you a list. This is in the medical literature, not in the health literature. The health shops don't publish this for very obvious reasons, but there are side effects from the very toxic. We're talking about natural vitamins being made from coal tar, petroleum, and all of those sort of things. Toxic buildup. A lot of people would say they contribute to arthritis. A lot of people would say they contribute to lowering the function of brain activity, and that is, in my view, absolutely true. Any over-acid condition in your body, it will go into joints, and then you'll get your arthritis or whatever you're going to get later on in life. Just look at the amount of bodybuilders in later life. They're terrible, what it does to you.
All right, and Jason?
Send you the list. This is medically published data, not my opinion.
All right. Yeah, I'd love to know about that. Let me go to Jason. Okay, let me go to Jason and ask Jason. Jason, do you want to add to anything about this and taking chemical versus natural?
I would definitely just say that when you're taking the chemical form, as it puts your body out of balance, for example. I know Eric has also spoken on the radio program before, like when you take a synthetic form of calcium, because it's isolated, your body recognizes that there's some calcium available, but it does not have any phosphorus, so your body starts to liberate its own phosphorus out of the bone, the teeth, and heart, and the blood vessels, so it can go back and try to attach to that incomplete form of calcium to phosphorylate within the stomach, but then it doesn't have the proper mechanisms to get back to the bones and back to the teeth and back to the heart, so therefore it's a leach.
It doesn't get back.
Pardon?
It doesn't get back.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't
have the protein signals to get it back. Sorry, I shouldn't have jumped in. It does.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Now, I want to ask each of you, if you could only take 3, let's say a person could only afford 3 of the Grown by Nature items, and they were going to pick 3, what would be important to determine about their own body and their own life as to determine which of the number of Grown by Nature nutrients there are? Which one would you pick?
Multivitamin and minerals, selenium, magnesium. 8 out of 10 people in America are deficient in magnesium. More are deficient in selenium, which I class as being probably the most important mineral. And to get that broad spectrum that you need as a base for nutrition, then the multivitamin and mineral, which does not counteract each other.
Okay, and Jason, your thoughts on which 3 you would take if you could only take 3?
I would definitely agree with Eric there, and that's because I learned from him. But selenium is just so highly deficient in our foods, magnesium as well. The multivitamin gives an excellent broad range of, all the vitamins and minerals. They're a little bit smaller concentration than the individual items that are offered, but it gives you a good broad spectrum. And then definitely with the magnesium, I love my magnesium. I can't imagine, going without it. So that's when I definitely feel a difference.
If one looks at 8 out of 10 people in America being low, subclinically malnourished on magnesium, and then you start adding in the refined carbohydrates to the daily diet, the horrible fats, and then simple things like when they start brushing their teeth with aluminium stuff, and it takes even more out of the body. It's in coffee, of course, that will do it. Alcohol will do it. And most of these sort of jitters when people laugh in the morning of people when they shake, that's magnesium deficiency. The magnesium is gone with the alcohol. But if you say 8 out of 10 are subclinically low, and then you start adding these additional factors of refined carbohydrates and saturated fatty acids, alcohol and caffeine, that takes even more out. It's quite remarkable. And women's bones are more damaged by lack of magnesium than lack of calcium.
Whoa, really?
Oh, yes, absolutely fact.
Wow. Now, let me ask you this. Why is it that if I forget to take my magnesium when I go to bed, I usually take 2 at bedtime. If I forget to take that, why is it that I wake up at 2 o'clock and then I have to go take it to be able to get back to sleep?
Well, you telephoned me today at 2 o'clock English time as a reminder. So your body's reminding you that you need a bit more magnesium, because every cell of the 100 trillion cells in your body requires a spark plug. I call it magnesium. If you're low in magnesium, those cells cannot perform the main point of repair, which is when you're sleeping. So if your body wakes you up as a reminder and says, please can I have some more magnesium, you're doing absolutely the right thing by going and getting some more.
It'd even be better if I'd remembered to take it before I go to bed at night, and then I wouldn't have to do that. But, that to me tells me something. Tells me obviously I need that. I want to open up the phone lines. Those of you who take Grown by Nature that might have a question of Dr. Llewellyn, I want you to be able to ask the question. 855-995-6923. 855-995-6923. These questions are limited only to multivitamin minerals, to questions surrounding that. So please give us a call if you use it, or if you have a question about it, or if you want to use Grown by Nature. 855-995-6923. Now, they come in a blue glass bottle. Why is that you would go to the extra expense, and I know that is a lot of extra expense, to package these items in a glass blue bottle, Jason?
Can I give you a physics point of view, please?
Okay,
it's
sure.
Because glass is inert and will not damage that dormant energetic potential in that what I call a seed or the pill. The glass will maintain its integrity. Plastic will denigrate it. Sorry, I feel very strongly about glass.
Okay, over a period of time or just initially even? Because most other vitamins, minerals, supplements, everything, green powders that I use a lot of, kamut or barley green powder, all come in plastic.
Well, if they are essentially isolates, then that's where they're going to be. But if there's a latent energy, a dormant energy in the pill that will then be revitalized, provide health benefits, I would say glass is better because it won't harm it.
Absolutely, I believe it's better.
Then it doesn't make much difference.
I know, and I can't throw away one of those blue bottles either. I don't know what I'm going to use them for, but I got a lot of them. But, Jason, your thought on that, because you go to a lot of extra expense to make it the best that you can.
Well, that's exactly the situation. When I was starting up with this company, I wanted to make sure that I was doing it the right way. I had checked back with Eric, and he had recommended glass. And I just, from personal experience, when I had been taking the one-a-day supplements, you can almost smell the plastic as you're opening it if it's been sitting on your shelf and catching a little heat or something like that. So, and there's just so much, bad press about how plastic is leaching into our water. It's leaching into, other items. So I did not want to compromise these nutrients in their pure state that they are, their natural pure state, by putting them in plastic that could possibly be leaching onto the nutrients. So, excuse me, that's why I wanted to go with the most, the purest form to protect them, and that was based off of Eric's recommendations.
Well, we sure appreciate that. We got to go to a break. We got a 3-minute break. We will be back. Final segment coming up with our guests, Dr. Eric Llewellyn and Jason Derkevics, and we'll take your phone calls, 855-995-6923. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Then Doreen Hannes in the next hour. Welcome back to Power Hour. Thanks for joining us. Caring about your world. It's all about your body. Treating your body like a temple. I'm serious. Treating your body like a temple, not a dumpster. We're talking to Dr. Eric Llewellyn and to Jason Derkevics today. Grown by Nature. The vitamins are available at the Power Mall. Call 877-817-9829, 877-817-9829, or go to thepowermall.com.
May I add one thing about plastic packaging?
Sure.
Now, we do know there's quite a lot of different opinions on this, but I would say the reality is the toxic effects of plastic packaging occur because the toxins in the plastic packaging do migrate into the food. Now, the amount of migration, you can absolutely say corresponds to the toxicity. Now, this is highly disputed by the plastics industry, but we're getting more information out nowadays of things like, the dangers of the bisphenol A's and things like that, which are in plastic, and they do migrate, and these are particularly associated with cancer and other things like that, but particularly women, we should be much more careful. Bisphenols have a chain directly towards breast cancer, and they're in virtually every beverage can anybody takes, and nearly every plastic container will have these bisphenols. They're in children's toys, microwave containers, reusable drinks containers, and even baby bottles, can you believe? It's a ghastly thing, and also I think it's one of the main contributors of the much lower plasma and testicular testosterone levels nowadays we see with men. Sorry, I just had to add that in because it does migrate into the supplement inside.
Oh, wow. All right, let's go to Dave in New York. Dave in New York, you are on with Dr. Llewellyn and Jason Derkevics. Go ahead, please. Question or comment?
Good morning.
Are you there?
I am
go ahead,
here.
please, Dave. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Manganese, is that in the vitamin and mineral supplement?
Yes.
Manganese?
Yes.
Okay, what is the importance of manganese? I heard, before that it's important to your heart or whatever, but do you know what does manganese do?
Oh, gosh. I'd be very happy to send a list to Joyce, but if you take basically on the metabolism, we know that manganese is important to reduce diabetes. We know that manganese enhances the body's production of energy. It reduces fatigue. It's very important because it increases good cholesterol to get rid of the bad ones. One of the things that's not often known about manganese is that it accumulates in the bones. which is beneficial. It also is required definitely to get proper cartilage working. It actually used as a treatment for both osteoporosis and rheumatoid arthritis as well. I think that within the nervous system, we know it alleviates some forms of depression. We know some forms of epilepsy will develop due to manganese deficiency. It is very, very common to find that people suffering with schizophrenia will have manganese deficiency as well. And women with rather heavy periods are nearly always low in manganese. Am I answering your question? Because I can go on about manganese a bit.
That was very well. I'll go off, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave. You're so kind.
One of the things that reduces the bisphenol A in the body is sage, and I heard you mention it earlier on, so I just had to slip that in.
Okay, thank you very much, manganese and sage. Let's go to Curtis in Missouri. Curtis, you're on the air with Dr. Llewellyn and Jason Derkevics. Go ahead, please.
Yes, long-time listener, love your show, buy your products, do the research, and I have a question.
We love you, too, and you stay right there, and we'll be back after this 1 minute, 10-second break and take your question for Dr. Llewellyn and Jason Derkevics. Thank you, Curtis. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us, caring about your world. We're talking to Dr. Llewellyn, and it's about nutrients, what goes in your body, and why we should be careful about what we put in the way of nutrients. Let's go to Curtis. Curtis, your question for Dr. Llewellyn or Jason? Curtis? Uh-oh. Curtis fell off the line. Curtis, come on back. Give us a call real quick at 855-995-6923. Just want to let you know stock market has been tanking this morning, down 138 a while ago. Doesn't look like things are all well in financial land. Let's go to George in Tennessee. George in Tennessee, you're on with Dr. Llewellyn and Jason Derkevics. Go ahead, please.
Hello, George.
Hi there.
All right. I have a question for the doctor pertaining to the vitamins that I'm taking, and I don't think that they are being sufficient enough. I'm taking a magnesium and a calcium 500 milligrams and a vitamin D, but I don't feel like I'm getting enough.
Okay, what are you taking?
33 different chemical forms of magnesium, and the magnesium content in those supplements will range from 3% magnesium to about, higher. So do you know which form you're taking?
I'm taking the Centrum products. The what? Centrum products.
Okay, but what is the type? What does it say on the bottle, the type of...
It's a magnesium citrate, I think.
Citrate. Magnesium citrate.
That's probably one of the least offensive. It's got quite good bioavailability. It's never going to be a food, that's for sure, and it doesn't have the proteins to get it to the parts of the body. But it is probably one of the least offensive. It may surprise you to know that if my memory is correct, probably it's about 16% magnesium. I think the rest is the citric acid. But the oral absorption is very good compared to a lot of others.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the phone call. Let's go to, do we have Curtis back on yet? Okay. Now, we're about out of time here. If I could do anything to change my diet today and make myself healthier, you say that magnesium, the multivitamins, and the selenium would be the most important to start. What dietary change could I make today? What one thing could I add to my diet that would be in a positive direction, Dr. Llewellyn?
Whole foods, properly chewed, and the reduction of refined carbohydrates.
Now, I think that's important what you said, properly chewed, and tell people why chewing your food is important.
Because you can't get the full benefit unless it goes into the stomach in the correct form. I could talk all day about that. people who used to go to the Changi camp, the ones who ate the poison berries survived a lot better than the ones who didn't eat poison berries, because when you chew it so much, the saliva will detoxify some of the poisons in your mouth, and it prepares it for the stomach. I can tell you lots more.
Interesting. Jason, what
You've
one
also
thing...
got the mucous membrane, which will also be absorbing, and specifically absorbing some nutrients from food. Once they get into the stomach, probably 99% of some of those nutrients are lost in stomach. And that's why the mucous membrane's there, but it only enters that area of your body once you chew it properly. The old saying is drink your food.
Interesting. So blenderizing and juicing, good things to do. What about you, Jason? What would you do to improve your diet?
I'm not so much on the train of addition, but what can we subtract from our diet? And that's keeping an eye on labels.